Hello, everybody, and welcome to my podcast, Fulfillment in Faith. I am your host, Shannan Mondor, and today's episode is a continuation of my series, You Are Not the Only One. I was brought forth to do this series because during my healing from my addiction to alcohol, there were so many times that the universe had brought me to silence. And it was during those times was when I learned so many things about myself, and I was guided. I was guided to talk openly about my past, my abuse, my addiction, and to speak my truth. From those moments of silence is when we learn, we grow, and then we teach and help others. Today, I have a very special guest, and her name is Roberta Campbell. And she is here to share her story. So welcome, Roberta. How are you?
Hi, Shannan. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me.
I'm so
I'm doing
glad.
very well today.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here. So, Roberta, you definitely have been brought to silence and stillness. That there's no question about that. And you are going to share your story. And I'm so excited for the audience to hear your story because it is beyond touching. And it's definitely going to help so many people out there. But can you start off before you tell your story a little bit about yourself, like where you're from and just so the audience can get to know you a little bit.
So let's see. So I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I've lived here all of my life.
Wow. Wow. How big is
Yes.
Cincinnati?
Oh my goodness. Um, Gosh, I should know that. Um, Probably a few 100,000. I don't even know, but
Okay.
I'm not even from the big city. That's the big city, Cincinnati.
Oh, okay.
I'm from a very small town east of Cincinnati.
Okay.
And I actually, like my graduating class, we had 28 people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I grew up in a community that was the graduating class, and that was a big one. They would
Oh my
classify
goodness.
that as a big one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, so we lived further out east of Cincinnati in the country, but we did not like we lived more so in the little town of
Okay.
Fayetteville actually is what it was. And so there was a lot of like farmland out there, although my parents, we were not on lived on a farm. We did not live on a farm. So anyway, yeah. So just grew up in a very small town, and I still have my best friends from first grade.
Oh, that's nice.
I know. And even though now I don't speak to them as often, they're always there. And it's really cool. So yeah, so now I moved just a little further in toward the city. Actually, in a really, really nice area. And I feel like I'm starting the second stage, that next stage of my life. And so big changes. I
Hmm.
mean, so I am divorced, and I've been divorced for over 10 years or so. I guess I lost count. And then and I have
Sometimes
two.
that can be a good thing, though,
I
Roberta,
know,
right? You know,
right?
not
Exactly.
holding on to it.
No, 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 not at all. Oh, actually, what's interesting too with that, I want to tell you, is that I just this year legally went back to my maiden name.
Oh, wow. How does
Yeah.
that feel?
Oh my gosh, it feels really good. Like, I didn't do that because of my children.
Right.
They still had my ex-husband's name. And so I just kept that through until they were finished with school. And then I kept putting it off. And then the past year or so have been some big changes, and I just felt it. It felt right. So I feel like when you do it, when you know it's the right time, then you're good, you're ready. And so my children they're not children anymore. They are 26. My daughter's 26 and my son is 24. And my daughter lives with me. We live in this adorable apartment here. And so we can walk around town. There's boutiques, coffee shops.
Oh,
I know, I
yeah.
know. Yeah.
It sounds like
Every
a little like vacation town.
It's so cute. It really is. And it's the river, not the Ohio, not the big river here, but just a small little river runs through, and it's just really cute. Bike trails and kayaking. And it's been a great place for healing.
Beautiful. Well, I was just going to say too, like you taking your name back, your maiden name back, that's creating your new identity, which I know that you definitely have created your new identity. And so this is where you're going to get into your story of how you have created your new identity with all that you've gone through. So let's get into your story of stillness and loneliness and your big journey, because I know it's huge.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's interesting because there's some things that I haven't really talked a lot about. It's things that I think we go through in life and we just kind of sweep them under the rug because we just have to keep moving forward. And so yeah, so after my divorce, which like I said was in 2009. So what's that been? 14 years, I guess.
Yeah,
14 years.
yeah, 14.
Yes.
Time flies,
Yeah.
hey?
And we were married for 16 years. So for quite some time. And then after the divorce, I was just like, okay, I just thought everything was just gonna it was just gonna move forward and everything was gonna just work out. And it didn't work that way. I didn't realize that I needed to work through some things. I didn't do that. I didn't take the time for stillness. And I don't want to say I should have, because I don't regret anything from my past. But there was a moment about 5 years ago, I would say 5 or 6 years ago, and I just, I don't know, things had built up on me, and I became very unhealthy because I was carrying all of the past with me. And so I just, I wasn't making enough money. I was struggling. I was struggling financially and emotionally. And I can see now everything. Back then, I couldn't see what I needed because I just felt like, oh my goodness, if I could just find someone to love me, and it was like, oh no, I see this now that I just needed to love myself. And the breaking point for me was I dated really I dated an abusive person, and I didn't really talk about that much. I didn't tell anybody. I was embarrassed. You're embarrassed about that. And it's okay. Like if this is anyone out there going through that, like, wow, I understand, and you have to find somebody to talk to about it, and they will make you feel so bad that you stay in it, and then you look back later and think, why did I even stay in this for a minute longer?
But isn't it sad how we have such of that lack of self-worth that we truly think that that is what, I'm not going to say that we deserve at all. I'm saying that that's all we're good enough for.
Yeah, yeah, that's seriously what I felt.
And it's really sad,
Mhm.
because I've been in relationships, with narcissists or manipulators, and it's just like, and then you've got this fake facade that you think that you love them, and you're so desperate to keep them, right?
Yeah,
Because you
yeah,
don't want to be alone. And that's what the really sad thing is.
right,
Sad.
right. Yeah, because well, so my kids were in college. And so I was by myself in this big house, and I was very lonely, and
Hmm.
I just
Mhm.
wanted someone. And
Yeah.
so when I finally said,
Yeah.
no, enough's enough, like I'm not doing this. And I broke it, I broke the ties. And at that point, I had so much had built up on me. What people don't realize too is that all of that past trauma, um, um well, just really all of your past will eventually builds up in you. And I had so many health issues. I was overweight, and I was depressed and all of this. And I will tell you, I was trying to numb the pain, and I did that with alcohol. And I also have always felt food to be comforting to myself. And I was eating very unhealthy. And my goodness, my weight was getting up there. And the next thing I knew, I went to the doctor, and he said, you have a large fibroid tumor, very large. You need a hysterectomy right now. So yeah, I was like, okay. And so once I began healing from that surgery, that's when I, got this person out of my life and started healing. I sold my house and I moved into this apartment. My kids were in college. And then it was like, that was actually my first moment of stillness.
Right.
Because when I got him away, I don't think I talked to many people at all for quite some time. I took that time and really just reflected and said, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
How did I let someone like that in my life?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the point where it just woke me up, and I was like, oh no more. And so I began to move on, with my life. And oh my goodness, I started getting really healthy, and I joined the gym, and I found these awesome girls at the gym, and we began biking and kayaking and doing all these fun, amazing, amazing things. But I will tell you, that was great and everything, but I still wasn't really dealing with the past. I still was kind of just like, let's just ignore it with fun. And so I didn't realize that, and I thought this is what I wanted. And then I had the opportunity, because I've been a hairstylist all of these years, and I had this opportunity to teach hair extension classes. Big opportunity to start making some really good money and teaching and traveling across the United States. And I was like, this is amazing. I was having the time of my life. And so, and that is when, that was in 2018. When I had 1 month, I had lived in this apartment, and 1 month later, I was in California, and my daughter was hit by a car while crossing the street as a pedestrian.
Was that in your town that you live in now that she was hit by a car?
It was downtown Cincinnati.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, and she started this new job hosting at this really awesome restaurant downtown, and she was going to the college at the time. And so, it wasn't like, and she was just working. She just got off work. She wasn't out running around or anything like that. And it was just something that happened, and I had to rush home, having no idea that it was just going to completely change our lives forever.
yeah, no kidding.
So that was about, gosh, that'll be 5 years this September. And it was interesting because at first she has a traumatic brain injury. She also has a lot of like internal injuries and chronic fatigue and nerve damage on her left foot. She wasn't even mobile for a while. So it was a lot. But I will tell you, we did struggle a lot for the first year or two. And so, but that, and I was mad. I gotta be honest. Like, I was pissed off. I was like, are you kidding me? I was just ready to start my life again. But I didn't know. I just wanted my old life back.
Right.
And I thought that, and now I'm like, oh no, you didn't. That's not, you thought you did.
Isn't that funny how we look back at our past, and at that time we're thinking everything is so great,
Yeah.
and then it's like, wow, like, no, it was so far from being great, right? You're in that total denial. And,
Yeah.
and then it's like, well, you can see why those people were in your life, because they've actually matched that vibration that you were totally in. Right.
Right.
Because
Right.
I was like you went to the fitness thing,
Yeah.
after addiction, I went to the fitness thing,
Yeah.
and it's just like, so I was surrounding myself with all these gym people too, right? And it's like, yeah,
Yes.
it's just another coping mechanism. Yeah.
I told somebody, I said, I felt like most of my life I lived in a fog.
Yeah. I
Sometimes
get
it's
you.
like, sometimes I'm like, wow, I can barely, those things that I think about in the past was like, wow, that just feels like didn't even happen. Even through like, through my marriage. And I mean, it looked like we had everything. I was able to stay at home with my children while they were growing up. We had a custom built home on 5 acres. I mean, it looked like we had it all. And
Mhm.
but I was struggling inside, but I just kept pushing that away, not not understanding that.
Yep. And playing the chameleon, right?
Yeah,
That part of the chameleon for sure. Yeah.
right. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was the thing is that, you know, I wanted so much just people to like me that I would be like, okay. And then I'd go and just go to this concert or go do this. And that was like, now I look back and I think, I don't even like that kind of music.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
I'm so there with you, because I had been there in my 20s, 30s, and my 40s. And, there, those people that, and it would be the same with you, those people are great people,
yes,
amazing people.
yes,
But like, I don't talk to any of those people anymore,
yeah,
because
right.
my interests are totally, totally different. And I just look back at that time in my life, which you probably do too. And it's just like, you were so far from who you originally were. And there's that fake facade that like, I feel that inside of me, that fake facade that I did for so long. Do you feel the same way too, Roberta?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I'm telling you, I look back too, and I look at even just like the way I dressed and the way I wore my hair, or
Yeah.
and wow, just did not have a clue who I was because I will tell you, right after high school, I didn't go to college. So the day after my high school graduation, I began working in a hair salon as a hairstylist. Like at 18, I started right off the bat. And, it just, and I thought at that time, because all of my friends were, getting married, and it was like, okay, well, this is the thing to do. And this is what I need to do. Like that was my mission. Not to be whatever, but I wasn't really focused on myself or my career. I
Well,
wanted a family.
I know too, like, with you being a hairdresser, you're in the public eye. You may
Mhm.
not be in the public eye, like out, you know what I mean? But
Right.
you are in the public eye on a daily basis, because the public is constantly coming to you, right? So you just hear so much about everybody
Yes.
else's lives. So really, when do you really have time to think about your own life? You don't.
Yes.
You really
Yeah.
don't. And I've been in the service, I was in the service industry for years too. So, and it's so easy to get consumed in everybody else's life instead of your own.
Yeah, it does happen all the time. And even just last night, I worked in the hair salon yesterday and I came home and there were some things that just kept that people had said, we had just talked about, and that kept running through my mind. And so, sure, and I do take on a lot of that. So I think as we need to understand what we do take on, and there's a point to where you you have to be, sometimes you might say, I just can't discuss this.
Mhm.
Like it makes me feel bad.
Yeah.
It gives me a bad feeling. And so like if people try to talk about, politics or something like that, it's like, oh no, like I don't go there. So you have to be like, I'm sorry, we got to change the subject.
Well, that's why I have not watched the news. It was a year in February. I've not listened to the news at all
Yes, I
because I
know.
can't handle it. Anywheres where I can cut off, the bad stuff, I do now. And
Right.
news is definitely one of them.
Right.
People will say something to me about whatever, and I'll be like, what are you talking about? And they're like, Shannan, get with it. And I'm like, why would I want to get with it so I can hear who got murdered or, these mass
Right.
killings? Why would I want to get with it? No, thanks. That's not my type of get with it.
And if there's something going on, I think we're going to hear it one way or
Yep.
another.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's going to make it
exactly.
great to be guaranteed.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So continue on with your story about your daughter, because that was another one that had definitely brought you to your stillness. And you had said that, you had become quite angry because of that,
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
that situation. So let's dig a little deeper into that area for sure.
Yeah. Definitely. Oh gosh, that was rough. Because we didn't understand what was going on. I mean, well, first of all, she was in the hospital for like about 2 weeks and 3 different hospitals. It was just such a blur. It was such a mess that I don't even know if it was confusing what was going on with all internal injuries. Because you would look at her even back then, she didn't have a lot of scrapes and bruises. She didn't have broken bones. And so it was very confusing. I was confused, and they didn't give us a whole lot to go on after that. They said, okay, we recommend joining a support group for traumatic brain injury survivors. And we did. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm glad I did that, because then I was able to understand that we weren't the only ones going through this. So then I was able to understand that there are people struggling and not just understanding what's going on. Like, she had depression really bad.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Really bad. And then, it goes from like depression and the fatigue. She still has fatigue, but then it goes to like PTSD. And then and then it's anxiety. And then, so here I am trying to get myself in a good place. And then I have her to work with too. It was a lot. It was so much that, like I said, at first I was like, I just can't, I don't know if I can deal with this. Like, I don't know what to do. And so, gosh, time went by. We spent a lot of time by ourselves, a lot of time alone. She did, I did. I just thought, wow, if I tried to tell anybody about what was going on, they would say, yeah, but she looks fine. She looks fine. She should be able to just go to work, go to school, finish, move on with their life. And it's like, unless you live with somebody, you can't understand that. And I understand. I just did some statistics yesterday, and actually, there are 2.5 million people have had a traumatic brain injury, and 80,000 people of those suffer permanent disability. And almost 30% of the population has had a traumatic brain injury. A traumatic brain injury is a concussion. A concussion is a traumatic brain injury. And so people don't understand that. And you don't even have to hit your head. It can be the jolt. If your head gets jolted back and forth and your brain moves around in there, that actually can cause a traumatic brain injury too. So oh my goodness, the more I started digging in.
But what confuses me is, how do you know that she's healing if they can't really come up with a diagnosis or anything? I think this would be the most frustrating part, right, Roberta?
It is. It's very frustrating. And that's why I just keep trying to move forward. And, so MRI, well, an MRI is not just an MRI. And listen, I am no doctor. Okay. There's a lot of things I don't know, and there's a lot of things I'm trying to learn and understand, but they're not all, an MRI is not an MRI. Like, they're not all created equal. Like, you need to know where you're going. There are different scans. There's like all of this, different information that I have been handed. And here in Cincinnati, we have not had a lot of help this far. But there is new research being put out there. So you have to be your own advocate, first of all, in anything that you do. And I will tell you, with the last couple of years being in a better place, I'm able to handle things a lot better. And so, yeah, I have a feeling this is part of my mission, because this is another thing that I haven't talked about, is that once I started digging in and reading all about traumatic brain injuries and what it can cause, okay, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I had one. I know I did, but it came to me during all of this. So I know that when I was 4 years old, I fell and I cracked my skull. I had stitches and I had a broken arm. And in the 70s, they didn't know anything about concussions or traumatic brain injuries. They were more worried about my arm.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you looked okay.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know, it's been such a wake-up call, because after looking at all this, I was like, I could just list all of the issues that I've had most of my life that have been caused because of that head injury over, gosh, many, many, many years ago.
Mhm.
And so the thing is, the awareness of that. Okay, now that I'm aware, now I know, now I can understand why. Like, I had seasonal allergies, like severe. I could barely go outside for a while when I was younger. My sisters didn't have it. Nobody else in my family did.
Mhm.
I had acne as a teenager. I mean, really bad acne. So my sisters didn't have it. They never dealt with that. Wait a minute, we ate the same foods. I'm confused, I was like, why me? Why do I have all this? Well, a brain injury affects your thyroid and your hormones and so many things that you would never realize, you would never, ever believe. And so when I started doing research and I started looking at all this, I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. And I have ringing in my ears nonstop. I've had it all my life.
And that to you would just be normal.
It's normal. To someone that hasn't had it and it starts happening, it can drive you crazy.
Right.
I've learned to deal with it because I've had it my entire life. That's the one thing that I cannot seem to find any help with. Everything else I've been able to kind of like, and I'm going to be honest, nutrition, number one, which I'm sorry, but if everyone had a better nutrition and ate more plant-based, more real food, real whole food, you would have a lot less issues.
Well, I just truly believe that if you really love yourself,
And
you will definitely take care of your vessel. If you love
yeah,
yourself, you will take care of it,
well, and
that's huge,
it
right?
is so huge, Shannon, because let me just tell you that I made those changes, but I was eating a plant-based diet, but I still had that in the back of where I would have that maybe, eating when I wasn't hungry, and that because of that I wasn't there yet with the self-love.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, where I'm at right now is the best I have ever been. I feel amazing. I do things for me. I told you I ran to the gym real quick this morning.
Yeah.
I mean, I had 45 minutes to get a shower, throw some makeup on, do my hair for this podcast, because that is important to me, because I am worth it.
Mhm.
And I feel better when I go to the gym. And I love how I feel, and I love how I look for the first time in my life.
Mhm.
You get there, you do say, no, I'm going to take that time for me, and I'm going to take the time and cook and make the better foods for myself. And it always comes down to that self-love, for sure.
And one thing I do got to say is, I don't believe anybody's perfect when it comes to their nutrition, but let me tell you, when you love yourself and you care about your body and you know what vibration you want to be in, and when you have that Dairy Queen or you have that slushy, oh, it just tastes 100 times better, right? Because it's like, oh, it's a little treat, compared to if you're eating that junk every single day. I'm sorry, because I like to have a little treat every once in a while, and I just like, oh, I just appreciate you so much.
Yeah, I can't even, now that I've cut so much dairy out, I had ice cream just like, was it last week with my parents? And I bought like really the best ice cream I could find. And we had, the three of us, we split this little pint. I didn't have that much.
Mhm.
And it still hurt my stomach. So I have to go non-dairy from now on with my ice cream. And I used to eat ice cream almost every day.
But what's funny too is you know what your body can have and not have.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing, right? Like,
Yes.
that's huge. Your body talks
Absolutely.
to you all the time, like all the
Absolutely.
time,
So,
right?
yes. And I do have the things that, uh, to have like real rich chocolate, amazing. And, oh, yeah, you're right. It is like, you just enjoy it so much more. This is
But
phenomenal.
you don't take things for granted anymore, I don't think.
Oh,
Everything you just appreciate, everything you're grateful for, and when you're eating something like that, you are actually in that moment because
yes.
you are appreciating it so much.
Yeah. And
It's huge.
what's so interesting is now I don't count calories. I don't measure anything.
Me
I
neither.
just I just try to think, okay, I fuel my body. I don't starve myself anymore. I used to starve myself. I used to work out excessively and do all these things. And now, how is that? How is that I actually look and feel better now than ever, but I'm not even doing as much and
Mhm.
not depriving myself.
And
So
And I
it's
know you're
awesome.
like me. Your life totally changed once you understood the law of vibration, because that to me was the life changer. Yeah, there's a law of attraction, which we both know is the secondary law, but the primary, the vibration,
Yep.
that, like, even
Yep.
to this day,
Yes.
if it's like, oh man, I'm a little bit out of sorts. Okay, what makes me happy? I know it's a walk, or I know it's this, or I know it's that. So I go to that, or I listen to my podcast, Dr. Wayne Dyer or whoever it
Yeah.
is. And I know
Yep.
that will get me back to where I need to be. And then
Yeah.
I'm just happier than happy, you know?
Yeah.
And that's also a part of the loving yourself, of knowing what you feel. That's
Oh,
huge.
it is. And think about it. It benefits everybody.
It
So
does.
it does, everyone that you are around. So if I take care of myself, and that's not in any way selfish. Some people are like, oh, did it? No. Okay. First of all, you have to take care of you. Okay. Because when you take care of yourself and you treat yourself really good, you're going to treat everyone else
Mm.
fantastic too.
Mm.
That's what happens. you're in a better mood. You're just, it has totally changed my relationships with everyone and my children, and communication. I can communicate so much better, even and with my parents too. And it's just so beautiful. I just want people to see that. I want people to see, though, that you can go through all those things. You know, I've been there. I've done that. And I had a lot of self-destructive behavior, and you can come out of that. You can change. You have to want to do it. But when you do, you find this beauty. You know, I see this world as just as so beautiful. And I'll talk to some people and they're just like, yeah, you know, and they don't see that. But there's just something about being grateful, isn't there?
There is, and I do have a question regarding that pivotal moment.
Yeah.
With this whole journey that you went through with your daughter, and you're learning so much, and that was also, this was all happening, I know, during the time of COVID too. So we were brought to our silence with COVID.
Yeah.
But is there a pivotal moment that you can actually say that you really looked at your daughter and you were just like, wow, like, this is why it's happened? Or, you know what I mean? Because we all know that everything always happens for a reason. But was there a time that you just looked at your daughter and you were just like, wow, like this happened for a reason, and this is the reason why?
There, it's funny because there were just little like baby steps towards that. It's
Okay.
interesting. Okay. So there was like moments to where we're like, wait a minute. This is how it kind of came about. It was like, wow, maybe we weren't supposed to live those lives we were living. Maybe this, and it kind of just was like little pieces that would come together. And she has said things too. She's like, I know that had to happen. Which is interesting.
How has this changed her life now?
Oh my goodness. It's interesting because she is like, look, it's the same thing. Her life too. She was also a chameleon and was just trying, she people pleaser, and she's very empathetic. We are, and you know, we always listen to people and they talk to us, and we you know, consult with people all the time. And she's like, I can't take all of this on anymore. I've got to take care of me. And she changed. She changed because of her injury. And she also changed because she decided that there were things she wasn't going to do. But because she did change, it changed her personality. And her friends were like, who are you? Like, you're weird. I don't know. They didn't really say that. I can't say that, but I could feel all of that. And where she doesn't really talk to a lot of her old friends. And then she was like, wait a minute, that life I lived in that school, you know, going to school in high school, the same way, what we felt like we had to do everything. We played all the sports. We were in all the activities. We wanted to do everything. There were some things I did. I'm like, did I even like that? Why did I do that? I was like, I hated softball. Why did I play? Because I just thought it was the thing to do. I don't know. I am not good at softball. Okay. Not my sport. But
That's all we had growing up, you know.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you
Yeah,
know, you
right. I was not
graduating
good.
class of 28 people. We had high school sports and we had baseball, softball, right?
Right. But there was a point to where with her, so she started writing music. She started doing a lot of journaling. She had a lot of time on her hands. And she just spent that time where she's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to write music. She just, things started coming to her. And so that's exactly what happened. And you should see that there's been a lot of transition in her music too, because she started off very, I would say more innocent. And then some of the stuff she does now, because she started more, I guess, R&B pop or something, and then she's added that rap into it, and I'm just, rap's not my favorite. That's just how it is. Okay. But she's like, but that's what I love. And I've always loved it. And why didn't I ever, so she's actually like, look, Mom, this is me. This is what I love. And so I have to be like, oh, okay. Well, and so we've had this little journey. Yeah, exactly. So it's been such a growth, but it's like, stay grounded. And this, let's see, last like spring, I was baptized again. So I think that was like, that's what I'm saying. All of this has been like little baby steps. Wait, I think it was right before I was baptized was when there was that point where I said I hit rock bottom. And that moment I'll never forget.
Tell me about it.
Because that was when I was like, and that was in 2020. And I know we all went through a lot. I do. But
I totally think that whole COVID thing, that happened for a huge reason.
I know.
And yeah.
And it's what you decided you were going to do with that.
Yep.
And at first, I mean, I kind of went through a lot of different things with this, but that to me said, I got to figure something else out, because you know what? Our jobs were furloughed. My job was taken away.
Yeah.
You can't work from home.
Oh,
okay. Our job is gone. And you know what? I live month to month. My savings was gone. I spent all of my savings on her recovery and trying to do things for the both of us, and eating better and all of these things. And yeah. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is not what I asked. This is not what I want. It's not what I want. Let's make some changes. And so I did start making changes, but I still wasn't sure who I was or what I wanted. I was trying to figure that out. And sometimes you just have to like let it go. I was trying to force all these things to happen, and you need that silence. You need that when you come, because you're forcing, you're like, I'm not going to do this again, and I'm going to figure this out. And maybe I can do this. I can do this. I was like, that's how I was. I was just like, I got to figure this out, like now. And then it just got to the point I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just done. I just remember, because I live right on the river here, and I took a walk down to the river, and I'd spend a lot of time down there. I'm like, all right, I am done. I let it go. I said, I prayed to God that day. I released it. I'm done. I am finished trying to figure this out. I can't.
I do have to chuckle. I do have to chuckle, because I'm thinking of like, how many times have you heard people say, oh, I got to go sit with myself? And they're just saying it, right? But now,
yes,
when we say, I got to go sit with myself, we're actually sitting with ourselves.
Yes.
And we truly mean it. I really got to go sit with myself, because I know myself wants to talk to me. Sounds crazy, but it isn't.
Oh, I know. We get it. We get it.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah. But you see, I didn't get it then as I get it now.
Yeah.
Where I was at that point. You know what I mean? Okay. Totally. So I'm at the river, and I'm like, God. Right. Yeah. Wherever you are, up in the sky. Yeah. Okay.
Now it's like, right. Okay, guys, I'm checking out, and I am going to sit with myself, because I got to figure shit out here. So see you guys later. I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's it. But I will tell you, after that happened, but things started happening, because you know what? I started listening.
Mhm.
I quit trying to control. And when they say let go and let God, girl, they're not a kidding. There
Mhm.
is something so powerful in letting go. And people are just so forced. Let's go, let's do, we can, nope. Sometimes just let it go. And I'm telling you what, I was like, oh my gosh. I thought one thing led to another. I was able to, I went to Florida for like 10 days. And even though, here's the thing, the flights were like $50.
$50?
Yeah,
We don't get that in Canada.
it
Like,
was like
not even
$50
close.
to fly. Girl, it was nonstop both ways, like full out $50, Was it
That
crazy?
wouldn't even get me into the door at the airport.
Yeah. So, and then I had a place to stay for free.
Well,
Yeah. So
you,
that in early, it was a God. I'm serious. It was all just like it had to happen. And so then I had this time, and I did not turn on the TV, and I did not turn on the radio, and I spent the time in silence. Okay. So I actually a week by myself, and it was, I'm going to tell you, the most amazing thing ever. I brought my affirmations with me. I brought my journal, my daily devotional. That's it. I spent the time doing that. And I'll tell you, I read that book, Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren. I brought that book, read it again, and I spent that time, and it was so peaceful and so beautiful. And that is when I came back from there, that I was baptized again. Bob Proctor came into my life. I've been watching The Secret ever since it was out. I've watched it hundreds of times.
oh, and you learn something more every single time. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
right. But it wouldn't stick. It wouldn't stay, because I just was like, why can't I just do this? Because as we know, and the things, and then next thing I knew, on Facebook, this Bob Proctor thing came on my news feed or something, and I joined this free 5-day live seminar that he had, and I was just blown away. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, here's the thing. I need this. And I asked for it because obviously, okay, law of vibration. I put it out there. It's coming to me now. And I was like, I want to do this, but I don't have any money. And I just knew I had to do it. I knew that didn't matter. I put it on a credit card. I was like, I have to do this. It was a year-long program, and things began to change right away. And I'm going to tell you what, I have never invested in myself before. And remember, I didn't go to college, so I didn't have all that expenses for college. I've never invested in myself, hardly professionally, and definitely not personal growth. And personal growth helps you in your professional growth.
Yeah.
So
It helps you to bring everything that you ever desire into your life, but
everything.
people don't know enough about it.
It is.
And when they do, they're not willing to invest that money in themselves, which is really sad. That's where people so need to be educated.
So much. But I thought, I've never known anyone, or that I knew of, that did this type of thing. I thought,
I don't know anybody that has done as much
yeah.
as I
And
have.
you're like,
Well, like in my world, like of course I know
yeah,
everybody,
right.
from all these people that I am
But didn't you
affiliated
think,
with now. But
I
anybody
thought
else? No,
someone
nobody.
with a mentor or life coach, I'm like, oh, they're like a celebrity, or someone, a famous athlete. Sure, they need like mentors and coaches and all that, but just the normal person, me, oh, girl, my life began to change in a second.
Mhm.
And so that's when I really went in, and I really went deep into that. Now I was working a little bit more in the salon. This was in 2021 at that time. So I was like trying to juggle, working and studying and all that. but it was so perfect. And right into it, right out the bat, I was like, oh, I need to write a book.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like, that I, because I knew through this whole journey of traumatic brain injuries and everything that my daughter and I had been through, I have to put it out there. I've got to tell people, I know this is, I have to let people know because they're struggling and they're hurting, and we have to do something. And so I started writing, and I just started putting this book together, not having a clue where it was going, how I was going to do it, nothing. And everything came to me, every single thing, every person I needed, everything I needed came to me. And it was huge. My daughter, she would see, it's a ripple effect. She's seeing me change. She's seeing my growth, although she wasn't in the program with me. She is seeing how I'm acting, and I'm behaving differently, and I'm responding and not reacting to people, right? And I changed all of these things about myself.
Isn't it amazing how I've noticed a huge difference in my language,
Yeah.
how I speak, my words.
Oh, oh,
That
absolutely.
is the one thing yes, I've totally changed completely. I know that, but it's my language, which I'm so proud of that. There's
Yeah.
just something about that.
Right. I know. I am too. I am so proud of myself and how I don't react. I take the time and I think about the things before I say something. And I don't, if I, they weren't kidding. If you don't have something good to say, then don't say anything at all, kind of like, you know, it's interesting because communication, I said that should have been my word for this year, because I have learned how to communicate with everyone. And there's things that we can say to each other. I never thought that I could say certain things to people because that would offend them. But I've even been able to speak to my parents better now. And I'll just like, now listen, I I'm not trying to offend you or whatever, but and I'll say things in a different way. Like it can be said in a good way. And they're like, "Oh, like we didn't know that." And that's just for example. I mean, that's with anybody. My son recently, he's like, I wish somebody would tell me if something or another. And I said, oh, can I tell you something? He's like, oh no. And so I told him,
Yours.
he said, thank you for telling me. He said, I want someone to tell me, but and it was a very just a silly, simple thing, but it was something that I noticed and I didn't say anything. But when I finally approached him and told him about this, he was like, thank you for telling me, because I did it in the right way. And it's so good. It's been so beautiful. And so we did the book, and then boom, 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 things just started happening. And now I'm like, oh my gosh. So the law, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the law of vibration. So the better that you feel, the better things are going to come to you.
I know. I know.
Girl, I'm just like, what? Okay. This is awesome.
See, and I'm really starting to live now in my end result of who Shannan is, that I see, that I so desire. That
Yes.
is who I am now. And I always think, well, would end result Shannan do this or like this or talk about this or whatever it is? I'm always in that end result Shannan. Always now.
That is so okay. So one of the things about me, I always felt like I'm rushing around. I used to be like rushing, and it was like, you are gonna calm down.
Mhm.
I had to just nope, calm down. Why be in a hurry?
Mhm.
Why, slow down, stop and smell the roses, what they say, right? Stop and say hello to your neighbor. I'd be like, I'm such a hurry. Hi, like I calm down, and I take every day and just try to enjoy every single minute. And it's just so beautiful,
Mhm. Mhm.
isn't it? It's
It
like,
is. It really is. Okay, so I've got these questions to ask you, but I think you've probably answered a lot
I
of them.
know,
Uh,
right?
Yeah, no kidding, right? Um, yeah, because your story is so beautiful and like you've learned so much. But what is it that you really feel through this whole brain injury trauma that you went through with your daughter? The divorce with your husband, breaking up with your abusive boyfriend, like just this whole transition. What is it that you really feel that you had learned the most out of it? Or is there even one thing that you can even pinpoint?
Well,
Because
definitely
there's been so many growth, so much growth for you.
take time for yourself. I think your thing of the whole stillness thing, it doesn't have to be a week, here or there. That means really going within and just taking time for yourself and taking time to think about, what do you want?
Mm.
If you could have anything, what would you love? And so when I took time for myself, and then that's when everything changed. And that included the learning to love myself for sure. And that was, you know, as moms, you're doing for at least I was doing for my kids, and then I was running a household, and then I was doing this and that. And I did have some things to myself, but I really didn't do probably the right things for myself. And so, and it's never too late. I I am in my 50s, and I have totally turned my life around. The people that I see struggling with dis-ease and struggling with their weight and struggling with all these things, I've been there, and I turned it around. And I don't want to say weight as in like a number, okay? Because I'm not putting a number on, I don't even get on the scale, but to be healthy. And like you said, when you have that self-love, you do pay so much more attention to your health, and to learn to care enough about yourself that you know when to say no, and you know when to get away from toxic situations and toxic people and everything else. And so I just I think that is one of the biggest things. But you also, knowing what you want. I didn't know what I wanted. Didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know who I was. But when I look back at who I was as a child, I'm like, oh, when I had all that free will and imagination, and it was like, who was that person back then? What did you want? Because a lot of times that's really what we want.
Mhm.
I remember I would go to my grandparents, and I would have this microphone, and I would just be singing for them and entertaining them. I, it was like, okay, maybe I was supposed to be on a stage. I don't know.
So that's where I'm going to ask the question, where
Yes.
are you now?
Oh, I'm ready. I am so ready. And I thought I was ready last year. Like, I'm ready. No. So last year we released our book, She Looks Fine. And if you have heard me say those words before, people would look at her and they would say, well, she looks fine. And I was like, oh my gosh. And finally it was like, oh, that's the title. So it was the perfect title for our book. Oh my goodness, I expected everything to happen right away.
Mhm.
And it didn't, right? As soon as we released the book in September of 22, and it didn't. maybe we weren't ready to receive, maybe, right? There's a lot of things here.
Fine
So
timing.
yes. So now it's an international bestseller on Amazon. I co-authored another book. What else? I became a life coach myself. I now have been a keynote speaker at, at my publisher's event, and I have an event coming up in New York City in less than 2 weeks to speak at a women's conference. And it's just a beginning. Where I'm also speaking at one of the universities here. My daughter and I both are going to be guest keynote speakers. And so, oh my goodness,
Your life's totally changed.
completely,
Totally
totally
changed.
changed. And here's the thing too. I want anyone to, okay. So talking about being alone, you can be alone and not be lonely. And that was one of the trickiest, that's one of the most satisfying things for me that I have learned, is that I can be alone, but not be lonely. I want to, to be able to just say, oh, wow, enjoy the times that I have alone. And so I, I do want to meet somebody, and I know that there's somebody out there, but I am not looking. I do not online date. I'm not doing that because I know when the time is right, that our energies will be brought together and I will meet the person that I am energetically in alignment with. But I had to work on myself first, because I want to give the best too. It's not just, before I was looking at what can they give me. That's not how it is anymore. Now it's, I want to give the best of me to you and to everyone. So I had to be there, and it's just so exciting. Like, I just know this is all going to, everything just comes together at the right time. But I needed to be here for my daughter, and I needed to get her into a really good place because she was struggling as well. And my kids have really struggled from our divorce. And so my thing too is I would love to work with that younger generation, like the young 20s or whatever. I was married at 23. I did not know who I was, what I wanted. I did not love myself. And I would love to help that generation to feel that self-love and that worthiness and be at that best place. I'm telling you, I can reduce the divorce rate.
I was going to
We
say,
can
yeah,
doing this.
yeah.
Okay. I get it. I do. I get it. You don't want to be alone. You want to be with somebody. You want a family. I understand that. I was there,
You need to,
and
you need to.
I don't regret being, I don't say anything bad about, my ex-husband, and we were supposed to be together and we had these two beautiful children, but it was I've never said this before. That got me. It was not fair of what our kids had to go through.
Mhm.
And divorce hurts the children.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely, it does. And you should do a course on teaching these children, and well, teaching anybody. If you want to attract the perfect spouse, you have to become that individual first, because you
Yeah.
are what you attract.
Right.
Could you,
Yes.
that's big.
Yeah. There you go. Thank
Even for
you.
yourself, right?
I
You
know.
attract somebody, that you are.
Yeah. Right.
And
Exactly.
even to heal people that are in bad relationships, right? You want to make your relationship better. You don't like
Yes.
things about that individual, your
Right.
spouse, then you know what? It starts with you first. You change
Yes.
that within inside you, and then that's what's going to change within the vibration of your spouse. That's one thing I've really learned over the
Exactly.
last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
That is it. That's so
Mhm,
beautiful.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
So, my dear, do you have any final words? I know that you wrote a book. You've got your coaching underway. if people want to get a hold of you for any of this, for your coaching, how would they get a hold of you? Everything's going to be in the notes that you tell
Right.
me, in the podcast notes, but is there anything that you want to extend on that?
You'll have, I mean, I'm on Facebook probably more than anything now, and it's Roberta Campbell on Facebook, but on Instagram, it's She Looks Fine Official. And, you know, I have a website for my book, but that's not the best way to get a hold of me. So through Facebook or email would definitely be the way. And it is all growth. I'm on YouTube as well. So you will be seeing a lot more of my face around, and I'm going to get out there and help and do my best to make this a more beautiful world.
Absolutely.
And I'm so, so excited. And I do want people to know too, is that I mean, you don't have to have the education. You don't have to have, there's no requirements. You can start from nothing and make everything out of your life. Like, you need to know that. I grew up a blue collar family, you know, it's like I had nothing to be able to get me here.
Mm-hmm.
So I have changed. I want to create this legacy for my children, and I want them to see, actually, they're both changing.
Mm-hmm.
My son is also changing careers right now. So it's awesome
It
that
becomes a ripple effect is what you're
yeah,
doing.
that you can do that. So definitely reach out. I also am beginning to book more speaking events, and so excited for that. Keynote speaking, motivational speaking. I know everyone says I have such a calm voice. I'm like, oh, but I can get really excited too.
I've seen you excited on
I
our
know.
call.
Yeah. Yes, you have. I'm like, there's a lot of passion in here too. So
Absolutely, there
you're
is.
gonna,
I've
yeah.
seen it. I've seen it.
So yeah,
Sure. So,
so perfect.
I just want to say thank you so much for being on my podcast. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And to the audience, just to let you know that yes, all of her information will be on the podcast notes. And definitely reach out for any of you that are, going through the struggles of brain injury, or somebody that or friends, family, anything like that, because I know that she can definitely give you a different perspective or insight, or educate you on different areas, because she has definitely gone through it herself. So, but thank you so much. I'm so glad that you are a part of my journey. This is huge for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shannon. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.